Nobody cares about Clark Kent taking on the Batman.
Hello and welcome to episode 107 of Popcorn and Prosecco, a show that's all about talking about movies. I am Perri Nemiroff, and here are my co-hosts, Kristy Puchko and Angie Han.
Hey everybody, hi!
So, I think it's pretty obvious what we're talking about this week. Batman vs. Superman. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
I thought we were watching My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2.
We're not reviewing Miracles from Heaven. We went to that for no reason.
Fuck.
Oh please. Alright, here is the shorter of the IMDb synopses. Synopses.
Yeah.
Synopsi.
No. I like that one better. Fearing the actions of Superman are left unchecked, Batman takes on the Man of Steel while the world wrestles with what kind of hero it really needs. With Batman and Superman fighting each other, a new threat, Doomsday, is created by Lex Luthor. It's up to Superman and Batman to set aside their differences along with Wonder Woman to stop Lex Luthor and Doomsday from destroying Metropolis.
Not exactly. That's like a third act plot line.
But like the gist of it is it's Batman v Superman.
And the Dawn of Justice. Dawn of Justice is a lawyer.
They really did shoehorn that element in there, but it's in there. So just generally, I think it is a not very good movie. I think the story is absolutely awful, but I was entertained from start to finish, if that means anything.
I hated it so much. Like, I came out of there and felt like Zack Snyder had not only not directed a movie before, but had never seen a movie before. Like, the editing in it doesn't have any sense of continuity. It just leaps from a thing to a thing, from a time to a place. Like, a lot of times you're in a flashback, but you don't know you're in a flashback, or you're in a dream sequence, but you don't know you're in a dream sequence, and it does it in a way that there was one point where I literally thought I had maybe blacked out for an hour, because I was like, what is even happening? And then it was like, JK dream sequence, and this movie made me so angry. And especially because it's Batman vs. Superman. It should be impossible to make this boring.
It's too bad we all didn't go to the same screening.
I know.
I would have loved to have gotten this right after you walked out, or the audible reactions during the actual screening, which I'm sure
I think I was literally, you can ask Eric,
just
but I
signed the entire time?
I think I was actually whispering "fuck you" under my breath a lot, like just literally cursing at the movie because I felt like it had such a disdain for enjoyment. Because and I said this in my review for Comic Book Resources, it's that this movie is so unrelentingly grim, it's not fun or thrilling. And I don't mean that it has to be funny, like Marvel does a lot of funny stuff, but just have some life. Like this movie, we'll get into spoilers later, but it's not until like the third act where I felt like there's anything remotely
It tried though. There were like a couple of lines, like not the line everybody knows is like, is she with you? Is she with you? Like it tried to do things like that.
There are parts
and just failed.
I'm not
They
a
just
lady.
weren't
I'm a
funny.
journalist. Alright, first of all, Kristy, I want to say that I'm concerned that when you can't follow a plot line, your first thought is not, this doesn't make sense, but I've blacked out for an hour. Please get that checked. That is very upsetting to me. But, here's the thing. I saw it after all the reviews are out, and I feel like I should pretend to be ashamed by this, but I'm not. I had a really good time. I enjoyed it, and not just enjoyed it, but enjoyed it kind of a lot. And I want to point out though that when you texted us afterwards, you were like, "I'm a little ashamed." So you've come full circle with this. No, I've decided to own it. Our text message Perri likes happy, and she owns that. So
I was half asleep when that was happening, so the only way I could contribute was with Bitmojis.
Yeah, like you texted us, and you were like, "You think less of me." I was like, "I do." Angie was like, "It's like Winter's Tale or Jupiter Ascending." Okay, no, I'll let you build there. I'll let you build. Let me explain why I liked it. So I honestly can't. By the time I saw it in a public screening. It wasn't like a press screening, so all the reviews had already been out, and I already knew that a lot of my friends, including these two people whose opinions I very often trust, did not care for it at all. And I actually I think that in a way kind of freed me up to not expect certain things from it. Like one of the most common refrains I heard was, "This movie makes no goddamn sense." So I went in, made the most
major piece with that.
I made the most token effort to try to make sense of it, and at a certain point I was just like, you know what? Like you said, Jupiter Ascending or Winter's Tale, it was just after a while I was just like, you know what? Nothing about this makes sense. I'm just gonna sit back and see where the fuck this is taking me.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, sincerely. There are things that I liked about it sincerely. Wonder Woman. Everyone loves her. I think you guys even seem to like her.
No, she's great.
I thought that, I continue to think that Henry Cavill would be a good Superman if only they would let his charisma shine through. I thought
let the dude smile.
And it's not his fault. It's so clearly
I think
the
that
direction.
I think that he does as good a job as he possibly can. I think that it's to Henry Cavill's credit that I still like Superman and care about him, despite how much this script and the direction wants him to seem very stoic.
That was my biggest problem with
out,
the movie overall, though, is I didn't give a shit about any.
Oh, I didn't care about. I didn't either.
Anyone, no one at all. And while I think Gal Gadot, I keep hearing different versions, and it's really stressing me out. But then I watched the video, and she's like, with her Israeli accent, it's like Gal Gadot. Not Gadot, but
not okay.
You know, whatever. But anyway, I thought she looked like a great Wonder Woman, and she's got this great presence. But at the same time, I mean, can you really say she outperformed anyone or really put on a great performance in any of those scenes?
I do, because it's like a little thing where, and you see this in the trailer, this is not a spoiler, when she gets thrown against a rock during battle, she doesn't make the same face that they keep making, which is this I need my Brussels sprouts face. She makes this face that's like this grin of fuck yeah, I'm gonna battle you guys. And that made me excited. It was a little character moment that was something beyond I'm so mad about stuff. And I get it. I understand why they're mad. They have reason to be mad. But watching another white dude be pissy for 2.5 hours, I got so bored. And I think you're right with Cavill. I feel like they don't give him a lot to do. And additionally, just let Superman smile ever, and you would have a better sense of his humanity.
I liked him a lot as Clark Kent. Clark Kent had a
briefly.
He had a little bit of personality.
You were before she had seen it, you were asking how much screen time he had because no one was talking about Superman on Twitter. It was all
not
about
only that, but I mean, it's kind of interesting how this movie's been marketed because initially we were expecting a Man of Steel 2. Sorry, I said that wrong. But instead, they decided they were going to move forward with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and in the beginning they kind of all right, cheers, Dewey.
For those listening to the audio podcast, Dewey has just cat bombed.
Yep,
which just means being in the frame. I realize it may sound grosser. Anyway, sorry.
Inappropriate something.
So I was saying, we were expecting a Man of Steel sequel, and then the first trailer I think was if anything, more Superman or maybe more even, but as the marketing went on, it became more and more focused on Batman. And this is really more of a Batman story than a Superman story.
Yeah.
It's more of a Batman. It's really a Batman movie where Superman is a major supporting character. It's from his perspective.
We'll move into that later. Soon.
But I thought that I think that despite the movie maybe not doing all it can to make its character shine, I actually did feel for Superman's character. I did feel something for Batman's character. I'm torn on whether I like this version of Batman because he's very, very sadistic.
I didn't really understand who he was or what was driving him even. I was...
Well, okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing about this movie. It makes no sense, and what I figured out later is that it's almost driven by, the most charitable way to put it is to say that it's driven by a sort of dream logic where things just are and emotions and symbols are driving things forward and not anything that makes practical or narrative sense. That, if you're listening to the audio, that was not the cat, that was Perri hissing like a cat.
Because the cat got on her laptop, and that's not what I did.
I was trying to be professional, just make myself sit, but then he touched it, and it's oh, don't do it, man.
But one thing is the way they paint these characters, it's just... I didn't have a problem with Batman being brutal. I grew up with Michael Keaton Batman, so I don't take an issue with Batman being brutal. That was not my problem. My problem is just that I didn't really follow his logic on why he hated Superman the way he did.
But that's what I mean by the nicest way I can think of to put it is it's dream logic. It's just driven by emotions. There's nothing practical or in terms of just logical or rational or practical in that sense. Nothing about this movie makes sense. The only thing that you have to know is that he feels like he's driven to kill this thing.
This was one of the worst
Batman
Alfred relationships ever.
I actually like that.
Really? Oh my god, I couldn't stand it.
I think if there's I think the strongest argument for keeping Batfleck around is because that means we get to keep Alfred around.
There were so many times where he was in trouble or in the middle of things, and I was like, okay, where's Alfred? Alfred's his backup now.
I get that, but
he was never
what I liked
there.
About Jeremy Irons' Alfred is that he's kind of sick of Batman's shit, and I kind of love that, because at one point he's we've been doing this for 20 years, which I don't believe at all. The story does not make any sense if Batman's been around for 20 years,
that
but
line confused me quite a bit.
But, Alfred is almost he's almost like a queen about it, where he's oh, Batman, and is whining, and
but you he has a genuine affection for Batman, which I think humanizes the
Totally.
character of Batman a lot. Like, one of the kind of running jokes in the movie is that Batman he has the same relationship that a lot of parents have with their children who are past the point where they should be married and have kids, but somehow have not settled down and they're not happy about this.
Right.
And he makes a bunch of jokes about it. It really does kind of bring some warmth to the Batman character that Ben Affleck can't really do because the script doesn't call for his Batman to be kind of warm.
Maybe I'll appreciate it more on a second watch.
Maybe?
So,
Okay, yeah.
We can move into spoilers.
Oh,
Alright.
But we didn't talk about Jesse Eisenberg.
I was gonna say,
Okay,
okay, even as the person here,
I have a
who
feeling
didn't
it's
like-
gonna be two completely different.
Okay, even as the
opinions.
person here who actually is saying I like this movie, I did not like Jesse Eisenberg in it.
Guys, I kind of like Jesse Eisenberg in it.
So what is happening? This is reverse what I thought, but I thought it was gonna be
circuit.
the
What
opposite.
is happening?
Okay, so here's the thing. They introduced Jesse Eisenberg, and he's basically playing Mark Zuckerberg again for the first half of the movie, where he's like this douche bro who's just like, yeah, I'm kind of rich, deal with it. This is what I think about things, and I'm going to talk too much, and I'm really obnoxious and pretentious. And I thought that was kind of a fun and different take on Lex Luthor, so I thought that's interesting.
But on paper it is.
Okay, and it is annoying, but at least it's not like he's not like I'm Lex Luthor ended up Lex Luthor and hating Batman and Superman. Like he had something else going on, and while
What else? What? That is literally his thing. He's like, I just hate them and I
but
want
he's
them
like
to die.
zany, but then it tips, and instead of his motives making any sense, it's like the army of screenwriters. Seriously, look at how many people are credited on this movie. The army of screenwriters was like, well, why is he doing this? And they came up with so many different answers, and then ultimately, I guess this is mildly.
I cannot believe how much the tables have turned here. Where now I'm shaking my head at Kristy.
Then all of a sudden he just becomes like Heath Ledger's Joker, where it's like I'm just crazy, and that's when he loses me. Is where all of a sudden I just all of a sudden was like, oh no, I don't get where you're going with this anymore. But I kind of
Does
like
it
the
happen
idea.
to be the scene when he was giving a speech and almost
Which
lost
one?
his train of thought or something?
He did
Yeah,
like
there's
8
several like that.
speeches.
Because I thought, I'm like, oh my god, like someone stabbed him with some toxin and he's all fucked
Right,
up now.
there had to be some, because
And-
there's a
and
tipping
that wasn't
point.
what it was
There's
at all.
he gives a speech to Holly Hunter, which guys, Holly Hunter, I like her in this movie, and I accept that sometimes girls just gotta take a paycheck, so I don't begrudge her any of that.
Laura Linney is in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Totally.
too.
And also, Holly Hunter rocks a white suit in this like nobody's business. Like, Hillary Clinton should call her and be like, girl, let's talk about your styling, love it, on board.
Who do you think Bernie Sanders should call for fashion tips in this movie?
Oh my god, if he started dressing like Lex Luthor, because Lex Luthor dresses like Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and if you don't know what that is, look it up. It's a show no one remembers.
Alright, now we're just writing really weird.
We're just
Batman v
we're
Superman
slash drag picking into the
politics
stupidest way ever.
fanfiction, yeah.
But yeah, okay, so let's go officially into spoilers.
Okay.
Right before we do that, really quickly, in case you don't want spoilers on this movie, which at this point I'm assuming you've seen it, would we recommend? No.
Here, you go first.
It's so hard because I want to say if you're really into these characters in the DC world, you want to see the whole series develop. I think you should see it, but it's almost like seeing it out of necessity. That's why
it's like you have to be part of the conversation.
I actually don't know if that's true because I think, in my
It's a
experience,
weird
one of the
read.
things that a lot of people
Yeah.
don't like about this movie are Batman and Superman are icons, and people have very specific ideas about what kind of characters they want these characters to be, and a lot of people don't like the version of those characters that this movie gives them. So I think if you liked Man of Steel, then this is more fun. It's less kind of slow and draggy and boring. I think that if you're a completist about wanting to see the entire DC universe is built out, you should watch it. I think that the best thing I can say is go in with kind of just knowing that it's not going to make that much sense, which I feel like is really damning faint praise, but honestly, I had a lot of fun with it. I legitimately really enjoyed it,
I'm
and I think
interested
it's
in
because I
watching
kind
it
of
again
knew
for that reason.
what
That's a fair point.
I kind of went in knowing what I should and shouldn't expect from this movie.
So let's dive headlong into spoilers.
Which dream sequence do we want to start with?
Guys, the third dream sequence where there's a weird Superman army and we're in a desert.
That's my favorite one with the creatures.
no, Mad Max Fury Road one?
That's where I literally thought that something had happened to me because I was like, what the fuck is happening? Because there's nothing to signify it's a dream sequence for the first until weird bat mutants start showing up, and then you're like,
I
oh,
love this.
this is the opening where all of a sudden Bat Kid can fly. What the fuck are we doing? Oh, this just made me feel like Zack Snyder like has an active disdain for audiences, where
That
he's
was
just like,
my
fuck you,
favorite.
and you're trying to figure out movies.
That was my favorite one, not because it made any sense, but because that's like what Snyder's best at, like just creating these insane visuals and all of that action, and the way that the score works so perfectly well, because like that's like Nightmare Batman, and the music was so like horror movie,
But then
like,
make that
everything came
movie.
together.
But it's like, instead they keep trying to be
I
like-
wanted that movie.
like that would have been that would have been interesting, but instead they keep trying to ground it in this like bizarre setup where Metropolis and Gotham are apparently like a subway ride away from
They're
each
right
other,
next
and
door.
yet
Well,
yeah.
they're twin cities. They're like St. Paul and
No.
yeah. That's what they're trying to sell it as.
That's
but the thing
really
is that like as
Because
the
they
movie
don't
goes
make it
on,
clear until like Lex Luthor has a line was like he came across the harbor to see us, and I was like, that's like an hour into the movie where you're like,
it's
that's
not
how
that
close
hard
they
to
are.
figure out because in the opening scene you see like that Bruce Wayne
Wait, is he in Gotham? I thought he was in Metropolis in the beginning.
I thought he was in Metropolis.
No, but
too.
he's like, but you see that he's like
The
from
cities
Gotham,
don't
he's, like,
look
right there.
different.
They look a little bit different. One of them looks more urban decay, and that's Gotham. And that's no, but you're right. I mean, I think that they're twin cities, they're right next to each other. But I think that throughout the movie, how far apart they are keeps changing depending on how quickly they need certain characters to get back
Yeah.
and forth.
How
So
is it that
sometimes-
close to the destruction then? Like that doesn't make any sense.
My other issue is like, is Superman hardwired to have like does Lois Lane have like a medic alert that anytime she's in trouble he just knows where she is, because it makes no fucking sense. He just keeps finding her, and then spoilers, we're in spoilers. When his own mom is in trouble, he's like, I have no idea where my mom is. I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Why can you be like, oh, excuse me a second, I have Spidey sense that fucking Lois Lane needs help, and he darts off across the country, like across the world, and finds her in a fucking desert, but then it's like his mom is somewhere in the fucking tri-state area and he can't even figure it out.
I know, it's a good point. I mean, like, throughout this movie, a lot of just practically speaking, so many things don't make sense. Like, Clark Kent's career as a reporter. He never shows up to work. The Daily Planet, somehow print newspapers still thriving in 2016, despite having no online presence.
I
You can tell they have no
I
online
have
presence.
decided that the Daily Planet is a mob front, because the way they run that business, it shouldn't be existing. Like, the fact that they always start off with a headline, which I know is like a movie thing, but the headlines aren't even good. It's like, love affair with man in the sky. Over? Like, no, that would never be a headline. Perry White, quit your job, you're terrible. Like, it's
But can we get to one of the bigger spoilers, which is
that he gets in the tub with his clothes on.
not a spoiler.
That's
but
also,
yes, that is
that's also
really
stolen
weird.
from a movie that Clint Eastwood did in like the 70s. It's called Two Mules for Sister Sarah, and it's way sexier there, so check that out.
But also it makes no sense because
Yeah.
Clark Kent, like Superman's whole thing is that he can take off his clothes in like less time than it takes to
Right.
do that. But instead, he was like, instead of using my superpowers to have sex with
That's a
my
plot hole I
beautiful
didn't even think
girlfriend,
about.
I am going to just plop into the tub with all my clothes
All
on.
I can think about is what a cleanup that would be.
Okay, I love that.
It
He
must
cleaned
have
it.
been fun.
We have this
Yeah.
discussion where he damn well better have cleaned it up, because
I
like
hope
that would
so.
take no time at all.
Also,
But
like
then
now she's soaking in a tub with like his shoe dirt in it,
Oh,
which is
gross.
gross.
And then the other thing is that when they decide to show him shirtless, because they show both of the superheroes shirtless, because I guess they got a memo that like, oh, women come to see these movies sometimes and they like that. But the context wasn't good, because he's like making her eggs and he's hairy chested and shirtless, and I was just like, you're gonna do that.
No, I was into it.
That bothered me.
I was
like,
into it.
like-
I was into it. No, I liked it. I liked it.
It buzzkilled me.
But no, the spoiler I want to talk about is why Batman and Superman finally are on the same side, and it is the stupidest thing
Oh
I've
my
ever
God.
seen. It.
Okay,
I loved
so
it.
I want to say this. I was telling some stuff to my husband, and I was saying something like, I said, like, in the comics, are both of their moms' names Martha? And he said yes. And I said, oh, and he goes, what? And I went, nothing. And I was trying not to give him kind of spoilers.
That's a pretty big clue.
There's a reason that
he
their
literally-
mothers have been named Martha for however long these comics were in existence, and nobody has ever like even just tried
So,
to like do this.
Here's the thing. So my husband says to me, what, do they finally become friends because their mom has the same name? And I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing, and he goes, what? No. 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 And then I was like, I mean, sort of. And then he was like, you explain this to me. So then I basically told him the crucial moment.
It's even worse about with how it happens because he has to say, "Why did you say that name?" Like
and then Lois Lane has to come in and be like, it's his mother's name.
And not only that, but Superman is referring to his own mother, who Batman has never even heard of,
Yeah.
as Martha.
Yeah.
So Superman's like, you're going to kill Martha or something like that. And I'm like, why? First of all, why do you refer to your mother as Martha? I do not refer to my mom by her first name, even when I'm talking to you guys.
We
And
did
second,
actually
why
have
would he
this
think that
conversation.
Batman would know who Martha is? And third of all, in the Captain America trailer, it opens with them also discussing Captain America's mother's name, so I don't know why, but suddenly that is the most important thing that you have to know about every superhero this year is what their mom's names all are.
I'm tagging it now. Mommy issues are the new daddy issues. It's happening.
That was very sassy looking.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's right. I am auditioning for The View. So no, the other thing that drove me, oh great, and I forgot what it was.
Well, I've got one. I didn't like how they wedged in Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman.
It's an after credit sequence that they tried to do after credits.
Which
I almost prefer.
It feels like such an
It's so
afterthought.
disjointed,
And
yeah.
two, because some of the footage looks awful. I cannot believe they want to put Aquaman on screen for the first time like that.
Yeah.
It looked bathed in CGI and
Yeah.
just like terrible.
Don't get me wrong, Jason Momoa is a babe and he looks amazing and I am down for him being shirtless for all of Aquaman. Don't ever put a shirt
What,
on
even
him.
if he's making eggs?
I'll let it go.
Whoa.
I'll let it go.
Guess we won't have to worry about a weird bathtub scene with him. He can just like jump in and it's fine, right?
Yeah.
He's already in the bathtub. He's a fish.
He's into
well,
it.
I know he's not a fish, but you know what I mean.
I say, don't kill my buzz. But yeah, there's things in this movie that are just so infuriating in the way they try to sew them together. And like the reason that Batman and Superman ultimately fight feels like such a fucking poor idea. Where it's like, hey, I'm Lex Luthor and you better fight him to kill your mom.
It's also because of the fact that, like, I feel like Doomsday sucked no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, but Doomsday looks like a mud monster.
Because
But that's why I
Doomsday-
had fun with him. He looks so ridiculous that
But
every time I went on
because
screen, I
Doomsday
like
came from
laughed
Lex
with
Luthor.
glee.
By the way, and this is totally juvenile, but did anybody else notice that you see where Zod's junk should be and there's nothing there? It's like a Ken doll.
No.
Yeah, I did.
That's
That was
very sad for my
hilarious.
Of course you were
spirit.
looking for that.
I was curious because he's naked and then you're like,
Wow, anytime a guy's like remotely shirtless, Kristy's just like, she's got like Lois Lane radar, but for like dudes not wearing clothes.
She was pretty freaking stupid. Like, it drove me
Aw.
nuts when she jumped in after the stupid wand. I'm like,
in her heels, by
I
the
was
way.
like,
Because
yeah.
every woman swims in pencil skirt and heels.
take your shoes off, and you just jumped into a pool of water when the building is collapsing.
She's also
Obviously,
a
you're gonna get
terrible
stuck in
journalist,
there.
where she sits down to interview a terrorist, and her first question is literally, "Are you a terrorist?"
I almost died.
Like, this movie had, like, no wonder, like, when okay, so now the whole defense by the cast and crew of this movie is they didn't make it for critics. Well, no shit, because you guys have such a disdain for just the art
I
of
dare you to
journalism.
go into your next interview and be like, "Are you a director?"
You know what? Like, okay,
Oh my
we should
God.
wrap up soon, but I will say, like, okay, so as someone who writes about movies for a living, I really hate the argument, like, oh, you should just turn off your brain, you're taking it too seriously, but at the same time, I have to say, like, as someone who, like, if you ask me, is this movie good, I will say, no, there's a lot of things about it that don't make any fucking sense, and, like, that don't add up, and, like, there's, like, things they could have done better, but I will say that one of the reasons I enjoyed it is because I was just like, I'm just not gonna expect you to make sense, and I kind of like hate that, but I have to
Yeah.
admit that that's a
actually
lot of
one of
a large
my-
part of my experience.
That's like my favorite argument, because as much as I appreciate like great storytelling and good filmmaking, at the same time, like, these are movies and they're meant to entertain, and you know, every now and then we should have to just sit back, relax, and enjoy the damn
Totally.
show.
I mean, I agree with a lot of the criticism about
and
this movie.
totally.
It's just that, like,
Well, my thing was, I can understand when a plot doesn't make sense if I'm having a good time. I've said that repeatedly in my reviews.
you're a fan of Jupiter Ascending and Winter Sails.
Exactly,
as I am.
totally, and like you
Both
know,
Warner Brothers movies, yes?
Huh.
Thanks,
Warner Brothers doesn't care if things make sense.
but like, there's a mean
You're never getting
spiritedness.
another screening invite.
There's
I liked all those movies, so they should give me another
Say
screening.
anything. They should be drowning with their swag. There's a mean spiritedness to this movie that makes me feel like Zack Snyder thought the only new thing to do with these characters would make them all a bunch of dicks, and like
There's
there's
actually
actually.
meaner. It's
Yeah,
true.
and
And
there's-
that's what I mean by, like, I
One
think that
thing-
some people who
did
like
you-
these characters are gonna be disappointed by
Did
this
you guys read about the
conception
Jimmy
of
Olsen thing?
them. Yeah.
Okay, so
No.
okay, so
How can you tell by the blank stare on my face?
well, okay, so he says Jimmy Olsen's in this movie, and I was like, what are we talking about? And he's like, yeah. And so there's early on in the movie, which is like literally
When
like the
Lois
second
Lane
thing-
has her "Are you a terrorist?" interview.
and there's a photojournalist who was shot in the face and killed. That was Jimmy Olsen, and apparently they were gonna have him say his name, but then they decided that was too mean. So instead, it's supposed to be some sort of bullshit Easter egg, and he's like,
I think
oh,
it's-
you know, like how in Psycho.
Because I looked at the credits and I'm like, I don't remember seeing Jimmy. Oh,
That's
I
so
see
gross.
what they did.
Because, like, his thing was, he said, Jimmy Olsen is a character they couldn't fit into this world, so let's have some fun with him. That's the quote, and I'm like, that's your idea of
What a
fun?
guy.
Like, he cited Psycho, and he said he initially wanted to cast Jesse Eisenberg because he thought it would psych people out, that they're like, oh, they cast a name in this role, he'll be around for the whole movie, and then you kill him off. But, like, think about the mindset of the guy who brought you this movie, that was what he wanted to do. He took Superman's like super BFF and wanted to murder him in the first 10 minutes to be like, you guys don't know what's coming. Like, I don't want to see a movie by a guy that thinks that's fun.
I bet part of the reason they didn't say his name though was so they can leave the option open to put him in there later if they want to.
But she said he's in the credits.
Well, but even then, and that just goes to like the bigger issue of the fact that this is a movie that cost how many hundreds of millions of dollars to make, has had like all the critic community, all the fan, like everybody has been like salivating over this movie for months and months and months, dissecting every little detail, and then it's like, this is what we get?
Yeah.
I think more than anything, that's what upsets me.
And what sucks is it's an obligation, because even if we tell you it's terrible, you're still gonna go see it, right? Because you want to be a part of the conversation.
Okay, here's what I want to say about that. You don't have to see it. Wikipedia is gonna have the whole thing with all the synopsis and everything. If you don't want to see it, don't see it. It's really fine.
And here's the thing that
You'll
sucks.
live.
If you go to see it this weekend to prove us wrong or whatever, Warner Brothers is going to take that as an endorsement that they did it the right way. Because Man of Steel, people complain left and right about that movie, but the only thing they changed from Man of Steel is that this time, every time something violent happens at a place, you hear someone go, well, that island was uninhabited.
But
to
I
the
will
point
say-
that it's ludicrous.
But I will
You
say
hear it
this:
so
I think
many
that there's a
times,
reason.
too.
I think that there's a reason that this wasn't Man of Steel 2. So like, even though Man of Steel made a lot of money, I think that they understood that like the reception to it from fans and critics was not as positive as they would have needed to justify
But Justice
making Man
League
of Steel 2.
shoots
So
in a month,
instead,
so
they
there's
brought
no-
in Batman v
How
There's
are
no
they-
time to course correct.
Like, how are they not getting rid of Zack Snyder?
I don't know.
Man, holy shit. But
Okay.
anyway, Batman vs. Superman made me appreciate the simplicity of Man of Steel. And I was never that big of
Wow.
a fan of Man of Steel, but like, just the fact that it was about like this one guy on this one mission, and like, I just totally got what he was about. the
Disagree
entire
so
time.
much. Man of Steel was boring, and this one, Zack Snyder was like, I'm gonna put everything in here
Man-
and swing
Man
for
of
the
Steel, I
fences,
swear,
and I'm
gets-
gonna commit to my weird
That
grim dark
movie
thing that
gets
not everyone
less
likes,
and
and I was
less
like,
boring the more
good for
you
Zack
watch
Snyder.
I feel like this is gonna rip us apart as a podcast. This is
God.
getting intense.
Dewey's bored.
Yeah, Dewey's like, whatever.
He's done.
I'm not saying.
All right, so we
Dewey's
should
alright.
wrap up.
Yeah.
We've already said whether we think people should watch it. I will remind people that they don't have to watch it.
Yeah.
Nobody's making you watch this. If you don't want to watch it, don't feel obligated to, honestly.
But if you do watch it, why don't you tweet at us and comment in our little thingy and tell us what you think?
I genuinely want to know what you think.
Tell us what you think the Daily Planet is a front for.
I have a friend who really loves Batman and Superman and genuinely liked this movie, and it was interesting. I don't know.
Was it me?
We're not friends anymore because you like this movie. No, yeah, I want to talk to him personally because basically my husband ran into him and he's like, oh, he said this, this, and this, and I was like, maybe we'll have him on sometime and we'll just talk with him about what he thinks about the movie. But yeah, I don't know, man. I wanted to have fun with this. I know that everybody wants to act like critics went in with their minds made up, but guys, I don't want to sit somewhere for 2.5 hours and hate what I'm watching. That is never my goal. So like, yeah, I was just really upset with this movie. I just felt like this movie thought it was better than its audience, and I took offense.
It's really fun. Don't listen to them.
That's alright. I think we covered it. Alright, that is a wrap on episode 107 of Popcorn and Prosecco. You know where to find us. iTunes, where you can subscribe and rate and comment. We have our website, popcornprosecco.com. We have Twitter, @popcornprosecco. Please like us on Facebook as well. And then all three of us are all over the internet too. Angie, you want to go first?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter @AJHAN, and you can find my writing at /film.com.
Kristy.
I'm all over the web. You can find my career highlights at decadentcriminals.com. My review for BVS Donna Justice is on CBR, so look for it there. And I'm on Twitter @Kristy Puchko.
And you can catch me on Twitter @Perri Nemiroff, and my writing is on collider.com. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
The red capes are coming. The red capes are coming.